Hello, World Wide Web. Welcome back to the Hanging with Web show. I'm Pomichter, and you're watching HWWS Web TV. Right now, we are at Space Coast Comic-Con. We're here all weekend long, and we are hanging out with some amazing artists, authors, filmmakers, musicians, creative minds of all kinds. Right here on the Hanging with Web show, I'm Pomichter, and we are hanging out with Hanging with Web show alumnus, cosplayer, actor, writer, model, this, not to mention fitness guru. Because if you guys are following, we're hanging out with Rick Stafford, the True Aquaman.
Hey.
Rick, good to see you again, my friend.
Always.
And we're hanging out right now because although Rick does all of those things and he's amazing at them, when it comes to the writing, he needed a little bit of a push. So where did he go? Best-selling author Kimberley Bouchard. Kimberly, thank you so much for hanging with us today.
Thank you.
Wow. First of all, y'all have been busy.
Yeah. A little bit. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, kind of let's catch up with you for a little bit, Rick.
Okay.
I mean, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
For those of you out here on the internet who are catching this next week or whenever I get around to editing it and you get around to watching it, Rick turned 50 years old today.
My 50th birthday.
Your 50th birthday. And yes, that happens. Hashtag Con Life is awesome.
Yeah.
Look at him. He looks better than me anyway. And probably you. You're sitting on the couch watching YouTube right now. He looks better than you. You know it. So, people think of convention life, and they don't necessarily think of guys like you and me. They're picturing a 23-year-old, out there. But not only are you always busy, we see your con schedule is always busy, but you actually give tips on how to stay healthy and things at conventions.
Yeah, actually, I run an actual panel called Fitness Geekery, how to prepare for, endure, and recover from comic book conventions.
And he's doing it.
Yeah.
You can see he's doing better than I am today, so he's doing really good. Kimberly, before we dive into the books over here, how did this happen? How did you get hooked up with this crazy guy? I mean, I know we bump into him at cons all the time.
Yeah.
But how did you get hooked up with Rick?
Social media is wide and far.
It is at that.
And so I was actually introduced to Rick through another mutual friend.
Okay.
Through social media. Got to talking, and we haven't stopped since, actually.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. That is, this is, we call this our con family because, we only see each other, 5 or 6 times a year. But it's like coming to a family reunion every single time. It's awesome. And the friendships that you make are enduring and lasting. You got a couple of books here.
Yep.
Let's start. We'll start at the top of the pile.
Yeah.
Positively Disney. Actually, I got to check this one out the other day when Rick prepared us for the interview here. Give him the book blurb. What are we looking at here? What is this all about?
So the Disney series, the Positive Disney, the Star Wars particularly, is actually heartwarming stories from the actors, the fans, the guests, the Imagineers, and everything, how Star Wars impacted their lives.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're compilation of short stories. That's book number 5. Book number 7 in the Star Wars edition will be out next year sometime.
Awesome.
But it's just really inspiring stories from these folks about how this saga has impacted their lives.
And for so many people that don't know, obviously we work in the creative arts, and so we see the impacts every day on our culture as creative artists. But everybody's impacted in different ways by that culture.
Right.
And Star Wars in particular, because it did so much to shift the paradigm of popular culture from sci-fi and fantasy in those days was subculture. And it's really shifted into popular culture, and part of that, Star Wars was a huge part of that. But Rick, your story is
a little deeper.
A little deeper than that. It's more than just a cultural shift. It's more than that because this had a very personal impact on your life.
It did. I mean, it basically took me from, it was a paradigm shift in all regards. It took me from being someone physically, mentally, emotionally, where I came from a world where I was kind of doing bad things to bad people, and we won't go too deep into that, to someone who now wants to do good for good people, And it all happened through, unfortunately, the cancer death of my son at the age of 8, who, while in the hospital, believed that he was becoming a Jedi. And I shifted my beliefs and became his Jedi Master. Went the course. Unfortunately, he did not make it. Became a member of a charity group to help continue on his legacy. That parlayed into a documentary, which parlayed into me meeting George Lucas and a lot of the celebrities, which parlayed me then turning into a superhero, and here I am today. So it was a gateway drug to where I am today.
He's not kidding, guys. If y'all are out there and you get involved in the creative arts community in some way, Rick did it through cosplay, and you did it with your son.
Yes.
Which was incredible. And I know the first time we talked, the first time they saw you on the show,
yep,
they got to hear that story and got to hear that, you know, every time you don that Aquaman suit, one of them,
yes,
it's a living tribute.
It is
to your son.
And I've said it, and I'm pretty sure I probably said it in the first interview. My son at age 8 did not get to grow up, so why should I?
I love it.
So I forever will be a kid at heart. So I will dress up until my last breath, and that is always again in his honor.
And it was, like you said, for you it was a life-changing experience.
Yes,
How many of those stories have you got to hear as you put together these books? I mean, those stories that are so heartfelt.
I don't know, 200 stories.
Wow.
Yeah. So
and each one personal, and each one so different.
It's pretty. I mean, it takes me several days to set up the organization of them because I don't want people crying throughout the whole book, you know.
Well, I was going to say, wait, I did one interview with him and wept for 3 weeks because I had to interview and then go home and edit.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that's what you're doing. You've got to take your notes and then go home and put it into a narrative and create the story.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So
I used to say, the old writer's paradigm was that we all had a glass of booze on this side and an ashtray on this side. You had a box of tissue because you were getting those stories.
I do.
Wow.
And without a doubt, he's one of 3 interviews that I've actually cried through the interview. I don't normally cry in interviews. I cry maybe when I'm writing the stories, but I could. How can you not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
well, I didn't mean to be so mean.
Oh no. But you know what? Because it's powerful, and so I relay that in the story, the power of the story. It's always about the story to me, and I think it was important to get that story across and how Lucasfilm came into the play and what they did for you and your son too. It's like incredible.
All the folks at the
501st and the Rebel Legion.
Legion. I mean, it really, for those of you that haven't experienced, convention culture, this really is a big community, a family.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see the way that rallies together for things, and Star Wars has been such a huge part of that paradigm shift, bringing us into popular culture, letting those stories be told to everywhere. As a storyteller, when you're sitting down to tell these stories, what do you think about the fact that at its essence, movie, pop culture phenomenon, merchandising phenomenon, cosplay, mega star, Star Wars is a story. Like every story that we tell every day. As a storyteller, how does it make you feel to see the impact that one story, one legacy can have on so many lives?
Well, I had the opportunity to see it in the theaters, the original, and see the movies as they came out. But honestly, until I started interviewing the community, I absolutely fell in love with this community. You cannot find a more close-knit, warm, powerful community of a brotherhood, a sisterhood. It's unbelievable how Star Wars has changed people's lives. It's incredible, the stories that I just feel very privileged to have a conversation, and I think we were on the phone for hours.
Oh, we were.
And we still talk.
Yeah, as a writer, I know researching is, hours of note-taking, phone calls, and there's just a lot of stuff that goes into researching when you're writing. When you're writing such personal stories, let's talk about that for a minute. What's the challenge in filtering hours of conversation into something that's manageable?
Right.
I mean, you heard so many stories, and so much of it had to be just so personally touching. And then you have to sit down with that critical thinking eye and say, okay, how does this make a narrative?
the most important thing is the essence of the story. There's a lot of things that people share with me that I don't share, because it's just too personal to share publicly. But I don't know. I have a little secret to how I write, and it's worked every single time. And I'm so grateful that I can capture what I do. And I always present it to them before, because I wouldn't want anything in print. As you know, if you've ever been interviewed, there are some things in print that you did like, yeah, I didn't say that quite that way, or so you want
I certainly wish
true
I did.
to the. Oh.
Many times I've done that. I used to tell my subjects when I was working with a newspaper, I may not get every word right.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I hated doing was bringing a notebook.
Yeah.
I didn't want to shut my subject off.
Right.
And so I'd say I might not get every word right, because I'm going to go out to my car and I'm going to do the best I can.
Right, yeah.
But I promise that I won't betray the essence of what you tell me, because and if I'm telling the truth, I will do my very best as a writer to make it sound even better than you did.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to do when you're filtering out so much information, and you got some very personal stories in there.
Yeah.
You guys go back and watch that first episode with Rick, and you'll know I had everything I could do to keep a dry eye in a 12-minute interview. So imagining you having to take that story and boil it into a narrative
Condense it, yeah.
is just incredible.
And I wanted to honor Christian. I really wanted. That's when I have those kinds of stories, I want to honor them, and so that was also really important for me too.
Now, what drew you to wanting to tell these kinds of stories in the first place?
I love people, and everybody has a story, and that's how we connect. We connect through our stories, be it tragedy, be it drama, be it comedy, be whatever. That's how we connect as human beings.
I really like her, just in case y'all are wondering. I really do. The human being is a storyteller.
Of course.
Since we can sit around the campfire and speculate what was out beyond the firelight, or talk about how our day went and what we hunted and what we caught and what we gathered, we've been telling stories. And those stories weave a tapestry of 30,000 years of history, and to be able to be a part of the most personal stories that people have, and to see their lives changed by another storyteller. Again, at his heart, that's what Lucas was. He was a storyteller. We were getting a hero's journey as if you'd read it from Joseph Campbell himself. And it changed people's lives for the better. Thank you for what you. Now we have this one over here too.
Yes.
And this is the anatomy of a cosplayer.
Yes.
And I haven't had a chance to look at this one yet, so I'm going to leave it to you guys. So let's start out with YouTube.
All right.
Get them brought up to speed. The book blurb here.
Yeah,
That's a lot of blurb.
This one was written by James Hannon, and this was another. I contributed through another 3 or 4 hour interview, and the book is broken down into subtopics, and then as the topic applies from our interviews, and not just mine, but several different. In fact, Alvin Johnson is in this one as well.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we've got a cross
there's
in
a lot,
some of the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of the same people she talked to for her book are actually talked to in this one as well. But the topic may be, what has been, a difficulty you've had at a convention, and I would tell my side. And then in the book, it would be several cosplayers giving their narration. So it's broken down by subjects that apply to cosplay. So it's a really interesting read because you're not just getting one person's answer to a particular question.
Well, I love the idea of trying to tell a story like that in a narrative format that's almost like a documentary film.
Right. So this is like a round table.
So when you play with it in your head, it's really...
Yeah.
The writer in me just got really intrigued.
Yeah. So this is more of a round table discussion. Awesome. And you're seeing everybody's input on one topic, and then a new topic comes up, and then you get, like Alvin and I will be talking about something, a topic, what's the difficult thing at a convention, and he'll say something, I'll say something, and it'll say, okay, Rick Stafford replied to, and then it'll be my reply from the interview, and so I'm intermixed in here throughout the entire book, just like all the other, and we're all listed at the beginning as to who did what where we're from, and so it gives a little bio, and then it goes into the roundtable discussions.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's a great book.
That's awesome. We're going to put links, guys, to both books in the description down below so that you can find these books online. So now doing having these out, and you just said you've been kind of coming to the convention circuit a little more, meeting more of these people in their native habitat.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah. What's that experience been like for you?
You know what? It gives me so much pleasure to be able to meet people in person and give them a hug, because you know, you really share, you really connect in that interview very powerfully, and it's important for me to meet these people. And I've interviewed 12 countries around the world, and I've actually been in living rooms on Easter Sunday in Scotland with contributors.
That's a really good day, by the way.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So I just feel really blessed that I can do this, and it's my goal to meet as many of the contributors as possible in the whole series. So
if you guys, and I'm going to go to each one of you on this one, if you guys could kind of step inside and tell a reader to grab one thing, one message out of all of these stories that you've helped to tell and that you've shared your story, what would that thing be for the... I know I made it hard.
You first.
Yeah, no.
Guys, I really am a journalist. Really. YouTube is fun and all, but I really am a journalist.
High on this one.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, if you could put one thing, one message to take from all of these stories, what would that message be for each of you personally?
Well, based on these two books alone, maximize your life. Don't not take a chance when given the opportunity, because you never know what tomorrow will take from you.
Kimberly's right now, she's going, damn, he took my answer.
Well, a little bit of it, but yeah,
Kimberly,
you know what, I think everybody has a story. And just in, paraphrasing a little bit, that, yeah, you don't know how much time you have. And so harness that life and do it. Like, just go out and do it. Don't wait for a year or 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Do
Live
it
a
now.
Story.
Live it.
Live a story.
Yeah.
Something worth telling.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess that's just it. Everybody has a story. Everybody's life is a story, and it is what we make it.
Of course.
We're the protagonists of our own story, and we have to...
But do you want to live a life worth reading about, or do you want to live a life people would click to another channel?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. That's my shut up card. That tells me that we have to go. We have to say our thank yous to our partners and friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, Josh Bauer at J. Bauer Art for all of the art that's on our set this weekend, Space Coast Comics and Space Coast Comic Con, Helping Others of Central Florida. That's families helping families all over Central Florida. It's an amazing group. Brevard Film and Talent for helping to make me somewhat of a filmmaker from being a newspaper journalist before. Mommy and G Creations for all of our merchandise, and SC Live TV, and our great friends over at Screech Dragon Games. Thank you guys for all your support. Thank you for watching. Remember, log on, tune in, and see who we're hanging with next.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, our pleasure.
Thank you.